Wouldn't do video if we really cared
All
that
right.
much.
We are live now. Got to go on to Alpha Geek and hit the buttons.
Oh,
By the
Joe,
way,
it's been 3 minutes. Why aren't we already on?
you guys last week on your when you did it with you and Eric, you didn't plug Alpha Geek at all.
I didn't
Uh,
realize that was a requirement.
that's a requirement. How do you think we have the live chat room at justcoolenough.com/live?
Well, we plugged it before we turned it on.
Way to
So
go,
only
Ike.
the people already using it knows what's up. All right, let's start this thing.
Kick this puppy.
Let's kick this puppy. Hello, internet. I'm Joe.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Ike. Wait.
Wait, hold on. Wait, you don't seem like an Eric.
I brought me here and told me to say I was Eric. I don't know who Eric is or what Eric actually does or if he's actually a real live person. But
All of those are a mystery.
So we have Cole here. Cole happens to play lots of games that are not video games. Maybe you play video games too. But this week we're going to be talking about the top non-video games or board games, or I mean, we didn't want to limit it. So top 5 games that are not video games. That's what we're going to be talking about today. But first, we always like to talk about our week, and we'll get right into that. Ike, how was your week?
It was good. It was good. I've been getting ready for school to start, like you do, and yeah, my parents came to visit, and my fiance, her parents had their 30th wedding anniversary, so we planned this big surprise party. And by we, I mean she did most of the work.
Like you do.
And I just joined along, but it was pretty fantabulous. And I've been enjoying this new chair that I got last week, which I talked about on the show. And I've been enjoying playing World of Warcraft because I've fallen back in love with it.
I can tell that you're playing World of Warcraft again because very little changed between this week and last week. You just kind of, you're like, yeah, it's
Most of it's actually school, though. That's why. It's like spending all that time at school and trying to buy supplies, just it sucks it out of you.
yeah, it's a job, right?
Yeah.
Am I right? Cole, how was your week? What tell us about yourself. You are our distinguished guest this week.
Well, I have known Ike for a number of years. We've played games together for that extended period of time. I have moved to Georgia, where I am settling in, doing the job search, and we're here. My wife and I are here for family rather than pursuing a career. So I'm starting over here. I did have an interview this week that I think really went well. So I'm looking forward to hearing back about a possible job start date very
So
soon.
what kind of industry are you looking to get into?
I work in the financial industry primarily. I've worked in banks and in actual payroll services for the last 5 or 6 years, and I actually applied to Bank of America, which it has a large center office space here in Kennesaw, Georgia.
Kennesaw, Georgia.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
I'm really excited about that. Georgia's gorgeous compared to my previous place of residence in Oklahoma, which is flat and dry
Wow.
and full of storms and earthquakes and tornadoes and
Georgia is definitely one of the more beautiful states. I really did like. I've spent some time in Georgia because my wife has family over there, and they have
nice.
some of the best driving roads, especially going up in the up the sides of these mountain ranges. I love it over there, and it's funny because if you don't know the roads, you got to go slow because you always drive what you see. That's a good rule. But if you're not a local, somebody will be behind you, basically tailgating you in like a F-350 dually and just riding your bumper. Like I was in a BMW Z4 little sports car, but I didn't know the roads, and I was getting a run for my money because of these locals behind me were like, "Yeah, oh, look at this guy, we're gonna get on his bumper." No,
Got their shotguns out their window.
yeah.
I actually learned a valuable lesson about traffic here in Georgia, and that is that it is legal to change lanes while entering an intersection.
Wow.
So
I didn't think that was a good idea anywhere, let alone
No.
Georgia.
It's really not, and it's not good practice. But I learned this because I was struck by another vehicle while I was turning into an intersection, and they were changing lanes into the lane I was trying to turn into. And because it is not illegal to change lanes in the intersection, it was my fault. So.
Nice.
Beware, people in Georgia, turning right into an intersection into fairly busy traffic. If you think there's a space in the lane you're turning into, think again.
May not be there when you go in there. Guys, we have a live chat room. It's at www.justcoolenough.com/live. Go there and see the magnificent... What do we got? We got Blazers, we got Table Gaming Eric, and we have Brady in there now.
So what happened to Eric? Why isn't Eric here?
Well, I mean, he's busy now. He's a grown-up. Apparently, he'll tell us next week with all of his grown-up reasons and stuff why he can't make the show, you know? Like, he just was like, oh, guys, I'm just, like, such a grown-up now. I can't do the show this week. So, I mean, what are we supposed to do without him? We replace him, you know, and move on. What are we supposed to do?
So what you're saying is that Eric has outgrown you as a friend? He's moved on? He's moved to greener pastures?
He's catching up now.
Oh, okay.
He's just over 30 and he's finally catching up to adulting.
Yeah, he's been like the last 2 years. He's been adulting. He lived his 20s in the last 2 years. His first 2 years of his 30s. So that's what happened.
And now it's like watching Batman versus Superman. He's trying to cram all of the adulting now that he should have been doing into the last year. But unlike Batman and Superman, it's kind of working out for him. So more power to him.
His ratings are good. Anyway, you guys can go out to the live chat room, justcoolenough.com/live. Join everybody there. Tabletop Eric says that he has a friend over in Georgia that's slowly suffering from heat stroke. So that's great. Yeah.
So I'm in Massachusetts, and I feel like I'm slowly suffering from heat stroke.
I have to tell you that everyone talks about the heat in Georgia. Go spend a summer in Oklahoma where the temperatures get up to 116 plus degrees. It may not be as humid, but it's still terrible.
That sounds terrible. Ike, we do have emails this week.
We do.
Yeah, we have.
I figured we'd actually hold on to them till we actually get to the discussion we were going to have, as opposed to jump in. But I also wanted to point out, Cole didn't give himself enough credit. See, Cole was the one who got me into Dungeons & Dragons for the first time. I played Star Wars role-playing with him for the first time. He got me into LARPing for the first couple times. Yeah, Cole's had a big impact on my gaming.
And WoW.
WoW, he got me. Yeah.
What? You fed him the drug that is World of Warcraft?
I am the originator of his addiction. Absolutely.
Oh my God.
He was playing it, and then he was like, "Hey, our neighbors downstairs, they have a brother or a cousin or whatever who doesn't want to play it, so they'll sell their account for cheap." I'm like, ooh, yeah. He's like, yeah, first time, just a little bit of money the first time. I'm like, yeah, let's do this. That's how they always get you. Then they jack the price up on you.
Like now subsidizes like 4 people's scholarship programs and schooling at the World of Warcraft Blizzard offices in Anaheim.
I was gonna say it's not even World of Warcraft anymore. It's just Blizzard owns my bank account.
Yeah,
he just direct deposits directly into the Blizzard coffers.
But I'm getting better.
I don't believe it. You haven't even admitted you have a problem yet. There's no way you're getting better.
Every time you say you're getting better, it just sucks you right back.
Yeah, you're getting
Did you
worse.
not listen to World of Warcraft Anonymous? I don't have a problem because I can stop anytime I want. I just don't want to.
So Ike and I made a pact before we started. We're like, you know what? I think today's going to be a drinking show. So we went out and we purchased some things to drink. Ike, what are you going to be drinking?
Some kind of liquid that tastes like strawberry pineapple.
Do you just not want to give them free ad space? What's the deal?
Well, on a rare occasion, I do have students that listen to this podcast.
Okay. Well, I was joking. Ike's not drinking at all?
I'm not drinking anything at all.
He just got back from church? and all he did was make a sandwich and do the show.
He is a wholesome and pure individual, if
Yes.
anyone can say.
I'm pretty sure, to be honest, they stopped listening a long time ago.
That's good. That's good for them.
They found it, and then they was like, "This is like Fight Club. You don't talk about it at school," and then it just kind of vanished. So it worked.
I know what's good for him. Well, anyway, I'm going to have some Atwater Brewery D-Light. It is a Kolsch-style beer, which I know I'm saying that I'm murdering it in Deutsch, but it means it's from the Cologne region, so I'm going to have some of that.
I think we've talked about this before, but I also wouldn't mind getting, since we're going to be talking about gaming in a way, but for a quick video game topic, just because I want to get Cole's input. If you are playing World of Warcraft, let's say, some kind of multiplayer game over the internet, and you are enjoying a drink, and I am playing with you, and I am enjoying a drink, are you drinking alone, therefore an alcoholic, or are you drinking with others?
That's a good question.
I would say you are drinking during a social activity, whether or not you are physically within proximity of each other. So you are drinking with others. Now, if this happens frequently on a daily or multi-daily basis, then we might have to have further discussions about your habits. But
because my fiance's father says that you're an alcoholic if you drink alone. I said, well, I don't ever drink alone when I'm playing video games. I'm clearly drinking with other people and playing. He said, well, you're still alone in your room, so therefore you are alone in drinking. Therefore you would be an alcoholic.
I think there's a whole discussion on what constitutes alone in a social context when we have the internet now. So
that's one thing that it seems generational. It's not generational, but it's people that have experienced the wonders of online gaming and the social culture that comes along with that, and then all the people that don't. Because there's even people, millennials and Generation Xers, and that also are like, oh yeah, if you're drinking and talking to people on the internet, it's just you live your sad little life. But I really feel that less and less people really believe that now, as much as the internet gaming culture has just exploded into pop culture now, and they're sometimes even one and the same. Especially in the groups that we run in, collectively I'm assuming a lot when we're talking about Cole, but since I know you introduced Ike to D&D and World of Warcraft, I'm going to say it's pretty safe. You're a social gamer.
Yeah,
I don't want to. I don't
definitely a safe
know,
assumption.
I don't know if it's positive or negative, so I'll just say, Cole, you are also indirectly the reason why I met Joe.
Oh wow, you're right.
Because
Tell me the story, yeah.
I played World of Warcraft because you got me into World of Warcraft, and a few years later when I started the podcast Warcraft Anonymous with my friend Rob, I met Joe and our other co-host Eric on WoW Radio, and then traveled to BlizzCon for a couple of years with the WoW Radio crew, where I subsequently met Joe in person. So in a way,
Excellent.
you have been responsible for this podcast, at least on my part, for me being here, because you introduced me to World of Warcraft.
So cool.
Well, Joe,
I guess, yeah.
Joe, I apologize profusely for any involvement that I have had in your suffering or other harm that has been caused.
I will never accept that apology, because nothing you say or do will ever.
Think really carefully about your wedding, Joe, before you open your mouth in the next couple sentences.
Oh man. Anyway, I want to talk about my week real quick, because I had a relatively awesome week. I got to live my dreams again. This year's been awesome for me. This week I went to a racetrack, and I raced around a racetrack and did a whole track day experience. Now, this was put on by the guys over at EverydayDriver.com and they also coordinated with another company called Laps Incorporated, which those are my two plugs this week. Spoilers. By the way, Cole, if you have something to plug, you should think of it soon. Okay, good. So what I did is I drove over to Joliet, Illinois, and went to a 4-mile long racetrack. Now, just for some context here, racetracks generally aren't 4 miles long. I don't know how long Indianapolis.
Are they shorter
is.
or longer?
They're usually shorter than that. Most racetracks are, I don't know, probably 2 miles long, 2.5. And so this one's a pretty large track, and for a beginner to go on a 4-mile long track, there's just information overload. But none of that matters.
Wait, how do you mean? You're only making left turns. I don't wonder.
Right, yeah, that's
You go
what
straight,
you
you make a left turn, then you make another left turn, you go straight. Where's the information overload? Unless it's one of those like cool ones like you see in Mario Kart where they're all like wiggly and look like a clover.
So I want you to search up Autobahn Country Club in Joliet, Illinois, and look at that track. Hold on, I don't even know how to spell it here. Das Autobahn. There it is, Country Club. There, yeah. So check out some pictures of this thing.
Where is it again? Indiana?
It's in Illinois.
Illinois, that's what I said.
This thing is a monster. I'm gonna throw it up on the screen here for all the parties. This track was awesome. Anyway, went there, giant track, and there was hundreds of people there, all racing, everything from full-out race-prepped Porsches to guys who brought their 2008 Saab 9.3 with not even race tires, like me. And also there's some other people that just brought their street cars. And I learned a lot about vehicle dynamics and driving quickly on a track. And at one point on the second session I was in, I realized, like, holy crap, I'm living Gran Turismo right now. My dreams are coming true. And I was just in the car, and I'm sitting there driving, and I just, like, yelled at the top of my lungs. I'm like, wow, yeah, this is awesome. So to start, like, my car was the least equipped car there. Sans one Chevy Cobalt that was also there, but they only went out once. And once I got smooth with the car, I was able to stay out for 30 minutes at a time, just being gentle and being smooth and fast. And eventually, I even started passing up people in my little Saab. So I'm passing up these Triumphs and running up on these BMWs, and I'm having a great time until this guy kind of dive bombed me in a corner and actually ran me off the track. So I had to go off the track a little bit in my car, and these guys are all waving their black flags at me like, hey, you fucked up, idiot. I'm like, oh, no, I fucked up. I'm really terrible. And so I pull around, and, they black flagged me, and I come into the racetrack, and the guy looks at me and looks under my car and is just like, oh, yeah, you're good. He's like, you're fine. I'm like, oh, is everything okay? Like, I just didn't want to crash. He's like, no, you did everything good. The steward said you...
So you're not there driving other people's cars. You just drove your own.
Yeah.
It's still a cool experience, but I just wanted, like, you didn't get a chance to, like, drive anyone else's, or...
No, it's kind of, you drive there and you race it. A lot of people brought their own race cars. It was a day where you had, like, 4 different experience groups going, and you had 30 minutes to yourself on the track with your experience group. So, beginner, intermediate, slightly better intermediate, and people that are pretty much race car drivers. And we shared the track and would go out in hour-and-a-half intervals for 30 minutes. And in between that, though, which was really awesome, is you get there, you do a class, and then you go out and you race your car, and you apply what you learned in the class directly to racing the car. And it made me substantially faster throughout the day.
Now, are these classes kind of, like, are they broad to car, like, you could get in any car now and apply that same thing, or did they teach you specifically to, like, oh, you're driving
Oh no,
XYZ car?
It was a very general class, just about
Still cool.
Just about the way you handle a car, and it's things just by driving, but them pointing it out and then saying, hey, we saw you out there. Be aware of when you're applying brake pressure and how much you're applying, because you ran out of brakes. Like, what happens when you drive a car really hard, any car, even high-performance cars, is if you are just mashing on those brakes, and then if you're going 120 miles an hour and you stop down to 15 to make a turn, and you're going 120 again, and you stop down to 15, those brakes are going to heat up so much that they're not actually going to stop you eventually.
They're just going to melt.
Yeah. Right, exactly. You're going to feel your pedal fading and going to the floor. And that actually happened to me because I wasn't being smooth to my car, because I wasn't being balanced with my turns. and this is what I realized yesterday. To be fast on a racetrack, you actually have to be more mindful of the weight of the vehicle rather than the speed or the grip or anything. It was just an amazing learning experience, and because I'm such a gearhead, it was mind-blowing fun. I felt I got to go there with my brothers too, so that was really good. They got a couple of pictures. Thank you, Atish, for letting me borrow your camera on short notice. It was a beautiful DSLR.
Now, did you have to pay to?
Oh yeah. It would have been $300, and because I used a code on EverydayDriver.com that they promoted on their podcast, which is hosted by ShowerEngine.com, they took an extra $20-something off. So for $270, you could get, if you were willing to, you can get like 3 hours on the track plus track time, and really learn a lot about vehicle dynamics, handling, acceleration, and just make a bunch of friends. It's just, if you ever want to talk to somebody about their car, you just go up to it and be like, hey, that's a cool car, and then people will talk for hours.
The big question I want to know then is, I know 2 months ago, we were talking about the HTC Vive, and I know my friend Ryle has one. I was talking about how kind of awesome it was, and you had said, should I get an HTC Vive for like $800, or should I take one of these classes where I can drive? I'm going to assume that you probably haven't had any chance to play with the HTC Vive, so with that kind of knowledge, do you still think it was worth $300, or you wish you got a Vive?
Well, so this is actually something I was thinking about a lot, because the setup that I really want is something like a Vive and an Abatu game chair, one of those ones that has the keyboard and the race wheel, Thrustmaster race wheel, and all that. I was thinking, but that's $2,000-something. I can do a couple track days for that and get the real experience and get those pucker your cheeks moments as you're braking into a turn and there's a Porsche, riding up your backside, and you're like, oh man, I gotta let this guy through, but I want to do it in the safest way possible, and don't hurt me. Oh, this is awesome! I'm passing people. Like the transition from the day, I would totally just want the real life experience now. In fact, because I experienced it in real life, I got it bad now. Like now I'm like, oh no, F a Vive. I'm looking at race prepped Miatas on eBay for $10,000 that are not street legal. Like I'm like, how can I make this work? I'm like, my CRV should be able to pull something. I'm like, no, it's too little. Now I have to buy a truck and a trailer and stuff. So it's a very expensive, deep rabbit hole that I'm teetering on the edge of right now.
So it just went from $800 to $10,000 in a split second?
Pretty much. I came back, I'm like, hey, babe, talking to my wife, not just like talking to anybody. I don't call everybody.
Just walk up to this person,
hey, babe. Hey, Toots, I'm a race car driver now. No. So
some dude's like, why do I care?
I feel like that's how everybody feels when I talk about it. I'm like, you don't understand. It was awesome. They're like, shut up, Joe. We understand. You drove cars fast. It was just a sob. I'm like, it's not about the car. It's about the experience of driving. So what I do think is going to happen, though, as autonomous driving becomes more and more prevalent, the clubs like this, these Autobahn country clubs and things like this, are going to be just like horses are nowadays, where like somebody goes and spends a weekend playing with their horse and do horse things. I think that's what's going to happen with cars.
Equestrian.
Equestrians, yeah. You just don't want to say horse people because that's derogatory towards centaurs. Everybody knows.
So what you're really saying is 20 years from now we're going to see NASCAR in the Olympics, because it's going to become one of those sports. It's kind of like
cricket.
Car vaulting.
So Joe, if horse people are equestrians, what do you think we should call car people once the self-driven, once the manual-driven call has been pushed out of relevancy?
I mean, petrol heads, gear heads? I don't know. That's a tough question. But I mean, if you applied the same logic, it would be car people, right? Or auto people. So, I mean, if I could be half car, I would totally try. I'd try it. Not saying I'd stay that way, but by the way, just for some context, that track I was on, that twisty, turny track, it's called a road course, was about 4 miles, and Eric in the chat room says that the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is a 2.5-mile oval. So the track that I was on was not quite 2 times as large, but it was pretty massive to start with. And I'd driven on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in a Nissan Leaf, and I used up 20% of the battery power in 2 laps. It was awesome. So that was my week, and I pretty much had a giant stiffy the entire time I was driving. I was like, "This is the best ever! I'm the best driver in the world." Oh no, I'm not. No, I'm not the best driver. I suck. It's very humbling, and I recommend it. Even if you're not a driver, I would recommend doing something like this because it's one of those experiences that you'll always remember. It's like riding in a helicopter or something. It's just one of those experiences that I recommend you try. So
that's awesome. Well,
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really cool.
I filled a lot of airtime with that, but it was a humongous milestone.
Whoa. Listen, if you're going to sit in for Eric, you can't be thanking people for the contributions to the show. You need to be talking over them more. Because if it's not about Eric...
All right. So I'll make sure to keep that in mind as we go forward then.
Yeah, Cole, if you could just talk over me a little bit more and bump
Joe,
up
I think what you're saying is great. I think what you're doing is great, but I have some other things that I want to talk about, but we'll get to that later. All right.
Perfect. That was perfect. You're nailing it.
Well, thank you. I do what I can.
Oh, did Ike just walk away?
Ike just walked away. He's just gonna. Apparently, I said something to offend him, and he is just done with it. He's stood up, walked out of his room.
While Ike walks away, I guess I'll do a couple ad reads here.
All right, cool.
And by ad reads, I mean plug ShoutEngine.com.
ShoutEngine.com.
You could start your own podcast for free. And what are you doing?
I wanted to talk over you. No, I'm talking.
I'm in the middle of the ad read.
We're doing some ad plugs right now.
What are you doing?
Way to go. You missed it.
No, that's what.
Wait. Just because... Anyway, go to ShoutEngine.com if you want to start your podcast for free in under 5 minutes. We just did a huge upgrade to the servers, and we are on our own servers now, and it is... Oh man, that was a lot of hard work, but guess what? We grew so much that we had to get off of Amazon servers. It was crazy. So thank you to everybody who's already using Shout Engine, and if you do want to start a podcast, go to ShoutEngine.com. We'll get you going in under 5 minutes. Even I can do it sometimes. So yeah, and if you haven't,
by accident, he keeps making all these shows. Like, shit, what am I doing?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. So another great site is Alpha Geek Radio. Alpha Geek Media helps us out every week by providing us with our live chat room. We do the show each week at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. Go to justcoolenough.com/live, and we want to thank Todd over at Alpha Geek Media for making things happen. You can always check out shows that are on Alpha Geek Media, like Politics. We're in the middle of the political season. That is I was listening to an episode of that with Justin Robert Young. He's awesome. Go check that one out. That's a plug this week. Woo! So those are the 2 plugs that I have. If you guys want to email the show, you can. Our email address is theshow@justcoolenough.com. Again, that email address is theshow@justcoolenough.com. We plan on reading a few out next week. I think it's about time to talk about our top 5 non-video game games.
Yeah.
Ike, you want to lead us off with that?
I guess I could. I spent part of last weekend with some friends playing some games at their house, and I came across the game which I had played once before and loved but couldn't remember the name, and they filled me in on the name, and I went out and immediately bought myself a copy of it. And that would be a game called Betrayal in the House on the Hill.
What? That sounds like a spooky game.
So my fiance likes playing the fuck your friends games, whereas I'm more of like the D&D let's party up and adventure games. And this is kind of a nice combination of those two, because you start off, the kind of gist of the story is that you're staying in this house that I think your uncle left you because he passed away. And if you could stay in the house for one night, you can have it. And so you start off exploring this house with all the other players. And as you explore the house, certain events happen, or you find certain items. And at a certain point, one of the players gets possessed. Something happens at random, so it's never, it's not determined at the beginning of the game. It's determined halfway through. And that person goes in the other room and reads a little booklet that tells them what their end game goal is. While they're off in the other room reading it, the rest of the remaining party reads their little booklet that tells them what their end game goal is, and you either have to stop the evil person from doing their thing, or the evil person has to complete whatever ritual or whatever thing they're trying to do, whether it be kill everyone or whatever. So it's a little bit of a fuck your friend game, because you don't know who's going to end up being the possessed one who turns on the rest of the party. And it has kind of a Cthulhu feel, and it's one of those board games that's, I guess, kind of like Clue, but the game board builds itself, so it's a dynamic game board that it's not necessarily the same.
Procedurally generated game board?
Yeah.
Just like No Man's Sky?
but better.
That sounds really cool. I've played the fuck your friends games, like the Werewolves of Miller's Hollow, and they have other iterations of the Werewolves games, and I absolutely love those games. But to combine like the competitive aspect and the cooperative aspect, I've never played the house. You said the haunted house on the hill.
It's Betrayal in the House on the Hill.
Betrayal in the House.
For
on
a
the
while,
hill.
I thought it was an Arkham game, so I kept looking at Arkham. I'm like, this is not it. This is not it. Like the Arkham ones look kind of cool, but that's not what I was looking for at the time. So I managed to come across them. And they're coming out with a second iteration of the game, kind of an add-on that is being made by the guy who made Cards Against Humanity.
Oh dear.
So I'm sure it will be a blast to play.
That sounds pretty cool.
Excellent. Yeah.
My pick here is also a fuck your friends game, and it is called Bang. You guys played this?
I've heard of it. Never played it. I've heard of like the Here's the Storm version of Bang.
So
buying the Blizzard site.
So what you do in Bang is you have a sheriff and a deputy, and then you have 3 other people, and I think 2 or a number of them are bad guys. So you have different guns that you're picking up, and yes, bang your friends, Eric in the chat room. You draw cards and you pick characters too. There's different characters, and the different characters have different abilities. Like ones can see farther, other people have things that they're immune to, or people can get health back or have extra health. Normal kind of character stuff, and then you equip a weapon, and sometimes you could pass around dynamite, and that just explodes randomly. Anyway, it's a total fuck your friends game, and the first time I played that game, I had a hunch that somebody was a bad guy and I was a deputy, and the object is to make sure the sheriff doesn't die. So this girl just kind of had an evil look on her face. By the way, you know this girl, Ike, it was Slugs. And so I immediately as the deputy, I'm like, I shoot her. Like, wait, you don't know anything about her. I'm shooting her. And anyway,
what would have been the penalty? Like, if you had shot her and she was not a bad,
she has a chance to shoot back at me and kill me. And so, anyway, I took her out at the first turn, but I was like mortally wounded. And then I got taken out the second or third turn after like another big struggle and almost killing another person because I was just like on a tirade. And eventually, I think our sheriff won. But it was just a lot of fun, and it was just one of those games that causes arguments and makes you sit across the table from somebody else while you're eating your, I don't know, s'mores or whatever, and you're just like, I don't like that person right now. Why did she resist my ability to kill her? I should have. If she was just one person closer to me, I would have been able to get that shot on that dice roll. So it was a lot of fun. I would totally recommend Bang. It is not an Eric Clapton song. It is a board game. Cole, what do you got? I know you have a ton of different picks.
Well, I mean, there's so many things. I mean, from my favorites to what is popular. But in the theme that we're kind of going with, I want to go back to the Werewolves of Miller's Hollow, which is my favorite social board / card game of that type that we're currently talking about. Basically, you deal out a bunch of cards face down to the people in a circle, and one person is a werewolf, and the other, or 2 people or 3 people, depending on how many people you have in your group, and the rest of the people are townsfolk. And of course, the werewolves have to convince the townsfolk that they're fine, and there's nothing wrong, nothing bad, nothing going on. So, and then everybody puts their heads down at the end of the turn, and the werewolves pick their heads up and pick someone to die that night. And so, the more people you have, the longer it can last, because only one townsperson dies every night, and then, based on the interactions previously in the game, you're trying to guess who is bullshitting, basically, and who is actually a werewolf. And the different townsfolk have different abilities that they can use. I don't know any off the top of my head right now, but it's really immersive.
Weird feedback on your mic there. I don't know if something got unplugged or not.
Is it kind of digital?
Yeah, it could just be a lag spike if you have any kind of porn streaming on the back.
It happens to a lot of show hosts that we have on here. They forget to shut the porn stream off in the back.
Yeah, it's a normal occurrence, really. BitTorrents full of stuff,
illegal music and stuff.
And is that getting any better now, or?
Not in the slightest.
No, it sounds like you're downloading Sausage Party or something.
Yeah, it could be that.
Maybe
the Overwatch porn version. I know Blizzard tried to stop that.
Well, while Cole tries to figure this out here,
yeah.
I'm trying to think of a game, Ike, and I cannot remember it for the life of me. And it's another one of these fuck your friends games where there is
sex dice.
That's it. That's what I was thinking about. You totally nailed it. So it's one of the ones where you have a character and 2 people are bad, and there's a wizard, but you're not allowed to tell that you're a wizard, and they know who the 2 bad people are, and you're sitting around a table, and all your friends, and you have to lie the entire time you're playing, and like, no, I want to see this thing happen. Shh, I can't remember what it is. It's killer.
There are so many iterations of that type of game that it's hard. Like, I've played one where it's like somebody is Hitler and somebody's one of Hitler's friends, and like they're trying to pass these things, so you have to like go around the table and try to figure out who Hitler is, but everyone's trying to pass certain laws. I don't know. I was given to my Jewish friend out of hilarity, but I mean, there's so many different versions of those. Try to figure out who the bad person is and see if you can nail it down without killing innocent people. But I'm not sure which one you're looking at.
I know. I'm trying to figure out what it was. I'll ask the chat room here. Cole, did you figure out your thing? Hopefully.
Maybe he'll remember to take himself off mute.
Oh yeah.
You gotta do that first. Does it sound any better?
Not in the slightest.
Yep. So
I'm gonna start if you guys will wait.
Sounds
a couple
good.
Minutes and
yeah, we'll see you when you get back here. We're going to continue on with our list. You didn't hear the end of that. Anyway, well, I'm going to share a few from our channels, our email, and our Facebook. If you don't like emailing us and it's easier for you to Facebook us, you can check us out on Facebook. We try to put some stuff out there. This is from Jack on Facebook. He also said Betrayal at the House on the Hill, but he also mentioned Munchkin. That was a really good one.
Oh, I bought that and never played Munchkin. Have you played that?
I own Munchkin and a couple of the expansions. I really wanted to pick up the Steampunk Munchkin because that one looks really good. I played Space One and the Ninja One and a few others with some friends of mine. Munchkin is, for those people who might not know about it, it's similar to playing Dungeons and Dragons, except all the role-playing has been removed. So you get your little character, you start at level 1 with all of your people at the table, and it kind of is a fuck your friend game. Like Joe could be fighting this monster, and he go, "Oh, Ike, if will you help me out? If we beat this monster, I get 3 treasures." And I'll say, "Sure, Joe, I'll help you out, but I get to keep two of the treasures or one of the treasures. It depends on how bad, I want to try to see if I can extort from him. But he can say okay or no, and then the closer you get to level 10, though, when you get to level 10, you win. So around level 7 or 8, it eventually becomes, oh, Joe's getting a little too close to level 10. So when he's like, oh, will you help me? You're like, no, in fact, I'm going to make the monster stronger. In fact, I'm going to beef it up super big so that you can't beat it and it just trounces you.
Is that monster always in existence? So it becomes a terror to everybody?
No, it kind of you kick in the door. That's the first step. So you flip the monster card. If it's a monster, you fight it, and if your level beats the level of the monster card, you win. So you add up all this gear that you've been collecting from the treasures, and then if your combined total is bigger than the monster, you win. Then you get whatever treasures the monster will give you, and then sometimes that's more gear, it's some weird things. So you can flip it and get treasures back. So eventually you can become just really overpowered on your own, but you'll tend to see that people will eventually start fucking over their friends because they don't want them to win. They're like, yeah, sure, I'll help you for treasures, and now you're getting a little too close to 10, so we're just going to knock you down on a couple notches.
Munchkin seems like such a team sport, though, when you read the box.
It starts off as a
team thing.
I think Cole is back.
Oh yes,
I am. Is my audio any good?
Yes, you're working again.
You played Munchkin at all, Cole?
Oh, Munchkin. I think you and I have shared Munchkin in the past.
All right.
I remember, if I can tell a little story. I remember my very first game of Munchkin was on the carpet, on the floor, in my apartment, and we had about 6 people playing, and we were all new to the game. So the vindictive nature of Munchkin, where you empty all the ammo you have on the person winning, the strategy didn't really come to any of us. So when you have people who no one knows really how to play Munchkin correctly, the game can take 6 hours to complete. And it did. We played a single game of Munchkin for 6 hours, and we didn't quit. Someone finally won at the end. I think it was my friend Ben. But it's just, the game of Munchkin is hilariously fun as long as everyone takes it with a grain of salt, because it's definitely a stab your friend in the back kind of game.
And I think there are these knee pads of allure. That's what they're called. And basically, when you ask someone for help, if you have the knee pads of allure equipped to your character, the person you ask cannot refuse. So
is that how the game gets?
There's only one of them in the whole deck, and that's usually the thing that people will go searching for, because if they can get it and they can get it going, then they can just make sure that nobody can mess with them.
That seems kind of OP. That game I was talking about earlier was called Avalon, by the way.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Is that from our chat channel?
Yeah, that was Ryle. It was coaxed out by Blazers 33X. So thank you for the teamwork there. The chat room saving my bacon again. So now they're working on a different task, like what version of Grand Theft Auto was Table Gaming Eric playing.
Our friend from WoW Radio, Kyle McCarthy,
successful voice actor.
McCarley. I always say McCarthy. McCarley. Also point out another one that I played before called Sheriff of Nottingham. It's one that he says in his top 5. And that's kind of another kind of fuck your friend game. It's you play with a character. Actually, it's a lot like Bullshit. If you've ever played the card game Bullshit, it is like just like that. You play as this vendor, and there are 4 rounds to the game, or however for each person playing, and each person gets to take their turn. Or sorry, there's enough rounds for each person to be the Sheriff of Nottingham twice. Basically, you compile a bunch of stuff that you say, I'm going to put in my store, but you put it face down in a folder, or sorry, in a bag, and you give it to the Sheriff of Nottingham. You say, well, listen, there are 4 apples in there, and you can't lie about the number of cards, but you're basically lying about what's on the cards because you're trying to smuggle in some illegal bread or things like that, some illegal things into your store, not drugs, but like just illegal merchandise. And basically, you're trying to bluff the sheriff of Nottingham, and sometimes they're like, oh, well, you know, if they look in there and they catch that you're lying, they get to take money from you equal to what you lied to. So if you're like, oh, there are 4 apples, but really there are 3 apples and 1 bread, you get to keep the 3 apples, but they take money from you equal to the bread. So but you can also bribe the sheriff of Nottingham, because it's like, well, you know, I'm thinking there might not be 4 apples in here. It feels like it might be something else. You can be like, well, this 3 silver says it's totally 3 apples, and then it's up to the sheriff to be like, yes, it does seem to say that, or I'm going to open the bag and look. So it can be it's a really good game for bluffing, but that's one of Kyle McCarthy's favorite games. We also have one from Brady. He says one of his The Contender says it's a political Cards Against Humanity game where a moderator reads a political topic and the contenders read cards based on actual political quotes and then debate the topic.
That's
I've never heard of this game.
That's so funny because that was actually made in the guy Justin Robert Young actually in the Politics show that I was plugging is one of the creators of The Contender. And it's a political game that, yeah, exactly. You're debating back and forth on issues, and it could be fun this time of year, or it could be just pretty depressing as the political process has been going. So,
before I mention my second, well, let's go in reverse and go Joe. Since you were the last one, you get to be the first one. What would be your second or third? Since we're kind of running out of time.
Yeah, I did already say Avalon, but. One of those games that just kind of captivates my my attention, even though I'm not very good at it, is Settlers of Catan. I think or Catan, whatever you want to say, but I feel like that's one of those mainstays in the board game world that has just taken over, and it just seems like you can go anywhere and they have that game. It's kind of
I have that game and like 4 of his expansions sitting in a closet behind me.
Once you get done with Risk, you're like, okay, Risk was fun. What's a little bit harder and more infuriating? I'm like, oh, Settlers.
I was talking to one of our friends, Brackus, who I've played, or we played some games with, and he was like, I hate Settlers of Catan. He's like, I never understand why people are smiling and laughing over this game because I just get infuriated. He's like, I can't get what I want, then people fence in my little settlements, and then I can't move anywhere. He's like, I just get angry about halfway through, and I don't want to play anymore. So he's like, I've never had a good experience with this game.
I've yet to one. The Rojo Nation is always starving and never has enough wheat. By the way, I'm always red. So my people are always starving. I'm always making these crazy deals and backstabbing people. But that's half of the fun, you know? I'm like, my nation's just a mercenary nation. They're like, Joe, block this person off. I'm like, give me 4 wheats and a bunch of sheep. They're like, okay. I'm like, all right, you're my enemy now. So I'm just kind of, I never play to win. I just play to disrupt other people's plans. And I think that's the way you got to go when you're when you're losing in that game. Just try to be the wild card and see if you can make fun things happen.
I never even thought about trying to offer trades to people to stop other people. Be like,
oh yeah,
you know, I could make something happen. I'm not saying I'm going to go out of the way to block them, but if they got blocked in by a road, it happens.
Yeah, it's like there could be a settlement just appearing right here if I don't see any wheat. They're like, Joe, don't do that. You're in last place. There's no reason for you to do that. I'm like, I'm just saying. I feel like the Rojo Nation needs a settlement placed right there. It's going to block your little route you're making, eh? And just slick back my hair again. And by the next turn, things usually happen. I never win, but I always have a great time. But I think it's because I'm kind of hell-bent just to screw it up for other people.
I really think Catan is definitely so popular because it's the gateway drug for more complicated board games, like Betrayal at the House on the Hill and other games where if somebody who has only played Monopoly or Sorry and hasn't really delved into the deeper realm of board gaming. I think that's really the stepping stone for them, even without Risk or anything like that. That's really the game that gets people interested into more more, in my opinion, interesting games.
So what would be your second choice, Cole?
My second choice is Arkham Horror.
Arkham Horror. I've heard things about this. Tell me more.
I know it's
Horror.
loosely based on H.P. Lovecraft.
It's not loosely. It is directly derived from Lovecraft's works. Absolutely, it is derived from the Cthulhu mythos. Fantasy Flight Games has a number of games based around the Cthulhu mythos, and Arkham Horror itself pits the players. It is a cooperative game. The players are wandering the streets of Arkham in this catastrophe where one of the 12 old gods are coming into Arkham via portals that open up throughout the city, and you have a finite number of turns to close those portals. And every turn, more monsters are released in the streets, and there are various locations that you can visit to get equipment and power up your characters and assist each other in defeating the onslaught.
So this would not be a fuck your friend game. This
no,
is
no, we are moving away from fucking our friends. I didn't realize that was such a popular topic with you guys, so it was something not that
well, you clearly have never listened to this podcast before.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but but it's definitely a cooperative game, and it's very difficult. And it's one of the only board games where I've lost the game more than I've won it. Regardless of what group of people I was playing with, and there's probably 6, I think, different expansions for the game.
Wow.
And each one makes the game harder. In its own unique way. So I mean, there's 2 or 3 different add-on boards with the expansions, and the others are just extra cards and extra events that happen to the characters every game. It's one of those games that takes a little while to set up and get everybody straight, especially if you have new players explaining the rules, because it can be a bit complicated. The characters have stats akin to a traditional tabletop role-playing game, but once you really get into it and you play a couple games and are really familiar and comfortable with the rules, the experience is fast-paced, and it has you on the edge of your seat throughout the entire 1 or 2 hours that it takes to play.
There's definitely a payoff to sitting through and learning the ins and outs of the games like you're talking about, and I'm still waiting to have the. I mean, Settlers, you learn a thing or two every time you play, and I feel like a game that's even deeper than that has to have just such a reward once you're good at it and you have a group of people that are all ready to play. I think it's just such a good time investment because other people have a good time with you too, and it sounds like you get a lot out of it as well.
Oh, absolutely! It's so much fun and I personally, while I love the games where we try to dupe our friends and the challenge of that mentality is awesome. I really enjoy personally the cooperative games and team working. Like Ike was saying earlier in the show that. He prefers D&D and let's build a party and go out and adventure together, and that's definitely very much my mentality when it comes to game as well. I want to, when I'm spending time with the people that I enjoy spending time with, I want to be able to enjoy that time with all of them without any doubt or question of or risk of people. Risk of conflict, basically, is what I'm getting at. So.
I kind of prefer that too. As much fun and as much as I like being a rabble rouser, I would rather be on a team doing team things because I just don't want to create. I just feel like there's enough animosity in the world. I'd rather work as a team.
Right.
So I have the game for you, Joe.
Okay.
And so we're running low on time. If you want another Fuck Your Friends game really quick, because I know my fiance wanted me to mention this, Zombies is the way to go. And
okay.
Zombies is one of those dynamic boards, but you're trying to escape the zombie apocalypse, and you can fuck your friends over and try to get out. But the one that I've fallen in love with recently, and it was a Kickstarter originally, was a game called Zombicide.
Okay.
And the really cool thing about Zombicide is they're always making more characters. These are just a small amount of all the characters that you can find. And some of them are exclusives that I've picked up at cons and things like that. And they kind of have a D&D feel in terms of each one has their own individual abilities that you can, as you level up, pick. But this is a game where you play with your friends. And unlike Zombies or some of the others, these do have big tiles. And usually the games can be anywhere from 40 minutes to 3 or 4 hours, depending on what you're looking for. And it's a you versus the board. So your team is working together to achieve a series of goals, while the board is constantly spawning, kind of like Cole was saying with Arkham, the board is constantly spawning more zombies that your team has to deal with as a group. And you can have people who will be like, you know what, I'm going to do my own thing, and usually either they die or the party fails and then the game falls apart. So it's one of those games that you really have to work well together. And there's 3 or 4 or 5 expansions of this, and they even made one called Zombie Black Plague, or Zombicide Black Plague, which is more of like an elves and wizards and more kind of D&D fantasy based, but you can find the Zombicide, which has more real, like you're at the mall or you're out in the middle of the urban city, and it's a lot of fun because even the game itself doesn't take itself too seriously. You can find characters that are based on like Hannibal Lecter, and like they look like like the people from the movies, but they give them a different name, or some characters from Big Bang. It's one of the ones that I have a blast playing. When we're not playing D&D at my house, we're usually playing this game here because it has that kind of. It's essentially the combat from D&D without all the role playing, and you need to work together to make sure the game works.
So we really have gone long on today's episode here, just cool enough. Let's just wrap it up real quick with a couple other quick picks that we had. Cole, what ones did we miss that you can cover quickly?
Well, I wanted to touch on a couple tabletop games. Obviously, you've got 5th edition Pathfinder, the kings of tabletop gaming. But my personal favorite tabletop game is Rifts, which is a post-apocalyptic sci-fi setting. The mechanics of the game are chaotic and can be tough to interpret, but if you are game mastering the game and you are selective about what pieces of the mechanics you allow into your game and can prevent your players from min-maxing, which is very easy to do in the system, the setting of Rifts is the coolest sci-fi post-apocalyptic thing that I have ever played with. And there's something like 20 different splat books that are supplements, basically, that detail every continent of the planet and what it's happening in this post-apocalyptic world, where there's magic and robot powered armor suits and aliens and all sorts of really amazing stuff. So if you're interested in a new tabletop game, I highly recommend Rifts, but just be aware that it is not perfect.
Okay, is it advanced? How long does it take to get into something like that?
It's a tabletop game just like D&D or anything like that. So having some familiarity, creating a character, and with the character sheets is obviously recommended. But it can be pretty easy for a new person to get into it. Any new people going into it will probably be overwhelmed by the choices. Because the books are not organized well in terms of the mechanics and the class choices, where it pits a power armor class next to a common wilderness scout class, and there's definitely some balance issues in the game if you combine everything. However, the author does in the intro to the main books say these classes are not balanced. These classes are designed to give you a range of choices on how you want to run your game. So,
kind of specialize in different things.
Yeah, and anyone running a game should limit the classes their characters should be taking, or their players should be taking, and then release technology and magic in the game at a pace that's comfortable with the pace they want to play. So an experienced GM would probably be okay with that, whereas a new GM might have a bit of a learning curve.
Yeah, you won't have the best experience with an experienced GM. Like, what do you got?
My quick honorable mention would happen to be if you're looking for a game that's super quick to pick up, super fun to play, and you don't mind screwing around with your friends, check out Exploding Kittens. It was a Kickstarter last year. They just got ready to kickstart the release of their new expansion, which will be coming out this year in I think a month or two. I should be getting it on my birthday. But check out Exploding Kittens. My big thing, aside from the fact that it's one of those games that you can play with your friends, is I've had really positive experiences with their support team. I've brought my cards to school to let my kids play during gaming club, and 2 of the cards got ripped. I mentioned it on Twitter, and they were like, "Hey, tell us which cards are ripped, and we'll get back to you." And they gave me 2 replacement cards for my first edition deck that were also first edition. And they said, "Hey, since you're playing these with your gaming club, we'll send you a couple packs of free cards to play with your gaming club." So I've had a really great experience with these guys, and the game is amazing, and it's for anybody of any age.
And that's by the guy who does the Oatmeal comic, right?
Correct. He's the artist on that one.
Yep.
What about you? What do you got?
Oh, I just was going to say, obviously Cards Against Humanity, because everybody knows about that one, and I also had Tickets to Ride on here. Or Ticket to Ride. Tickets to Ride. It's when you play Ticket to Ride twice while you're at the same time. But let's get into our plugs real quick. We are severely late. My plug for this week is, like I said, if you're in the Midwest, if you're in the Midwest region at all, go check out lapsincorporated.com. If you want to get some drive time on that Autobahn Country Club racetrack, they are very reasonably priced. And then for the discount code, head over to everydaydriver.com and look at their events. It's not events. It is a adventures section. Those guys, Paul and Todd at the show, those guys are amazing. And go racing. If you save up a couple bucks and just go have fun at the track, it's an amazing experience. At least do it once.
Cole, what do you got? No, I'm gonna hand it to Cole first.
Sure, yeah, let's go.
My plug today is for the Rule of 3 Productions, which is a live-action role-playing corporation company here in Georgia that I have recently been introduced myself to, and they're a great group of people that run 2 different games concurrently. They have one event every other month for each game, so one event per month for the company, and they really just do a quality job. Last month I went out and played a monster NPC for their Dust to Dust fantasy live-action role-playing game, and it was a blast. I had a great time. They also have a sci-fi role-playing game, and in the spring they're starting Calamity, which is a Weird West LARP, which is starting, and it's everybody gets a chance to get on the ground with new characters, and something that I'm very much looking forward to. Rule of 3, that's ruleof3.net. You'll find all the games that they run right now, and if you're in the Georgia area or anywhere within 4 or 5 hours drive, it's really definitely worth checking out.
And Ike, what was your plug this week?
My plug this week, which I linked for you, Joe, in our notes here on the chat. If you go to Kickstarter, check out the revolutionary game controller for the #1 app in the world, or you can check it out on Twitter with hashtag Where's the Ball. It is the first kinetic game Pokeball that you can get for Pokemon. It hasn't been licensed yet, but it's by the game company called Gamer Reality LLC, and they've made a Pokeball which you can use with the app that you can actually throw and play with Pokemon. They have about 35 days to go. Their goal was 25 $1,000, and they've already hit 33, so they've surpassed their goal, and now they're talking about stretch goals while they wait to hear back from Niantic whether or not they can get officially licensed. The really cool thing I like about this project, aside from the fact that it can actually be used with the app and actually you can feel like you're actually, doing Pokemon, playing Pokemon, is that if they don't get the license but you've pledged the money, they're going to attempt to come up with some other games that would be useful to use with. But if you still are like, not for me, then you can actually get your money back from them. So it's really, it's like a no-lose situation that you can always get your money back even though they're funded. So go check it out on Kickstarter, or you can check it out on Twitter with hashtag Where's the Ball.
All right, and I just want to say, if you want to follow me on Instagram, you can at Joe Q Carr. Eric, you're not Eric. If you want to follow Eric on Instagram, if you want to know what Eric is actually up to, go follow him on Instagram. Look him up. His name is Mostly Shit on Instagram. Again, that name is Mostly Shit on Instagram. That is Eric, and that would actually clue you into what is he doing today that is so adulting. Wait, that's not the right word. Cole, what's your? Where can people find you on the internet if you want them to find you?
You can get me on Twitter at PineappleChuck. That's pineapple and then CHUCK, and I'm on Facebook too. That's about it.
All right, Ike.
You can find me on Twitter. I've been checking it more. Haven't been using it to post a whole lot, but at Railvis, Railvas, or you can find me playing pretty much all of the games on the Blizzard Battle.net stuff with Railvis or hashtag 1410. So if you want to be friends on there, just shoot me a little invite and yeah, we can be friends and play games together.
All right, everybody, thank you very much for listening, and we appreciate your donations. If you want to donate to the show and the site, justcoolenough.com, hit the donate button. We really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. We don't even need to say fuck off or anything this week because Eric's not here. It's nice.
That's just, I really hate when. Do you hate that when he's like, you know what, guys, fuck off?
Oh, dude, not this week. I'm supposed to be nice, and you're supposed to be nice to the listeners. I thought we even gave Eric a nice plug because he was an adult and all this stuff. Jeez. Cole, thanks a lot for coming.
Yeah, guys, thanks so much for having me. Sorry about the little audio bugs I was having.
Oh, it's no problem. Well, we're off air right now.